Good to have you in your programme. Now, I was looking at your social media. You highlight the plight of everyday Sudanese. Can you tell us some of their stories so the viewer can really understand what it's like after 500 days of war?
Well, I've been traveling East Africa for over the past month now, and even going up to Egypt during the start of the year to meet Sudanese who have been displaced by war. And especially now, we've reached the 500th mark. This war is absolutely not sustainable towards any of the Sudanese population or people inside Sudan and outside of Sudan. Just earlier today, I was having a conversation with a few Sudanese on how if they could return back to Sudan at first moment's notice, they would, and they would wish to. Unfortunately, because there's not enough remittances, there's not enough money, there's not enough aid, there's not enough support, for those inside the country and outside as well, it seems that going on and continuing this war hurts nobody, hurts everybody, and benefits nobody in this war, but those who are warring and fighting. And even then, the belligerent SAF and the RSF. SAF has made a promise in the beginning of this war that they will defeat the rapid support forces within the first 3 days to 7 days. We have now entered the 500th day, and we've just seen the RSF essentially seizing, capturing, looting, raping, and using sexual slavery, amongst other means of coercion, against the Sudanese civilians or population. So even if the RSF, the militia, claims that it's fighting for a democratic Sudan, its actions has not certainly reflected that. However, also with the army, with its continued airstrikes in very densely populated areas in Darfur and other parts around Sudan. But its incompetence to be able to regain states and areas under RSF control have left many people disillusioned over whether this war can be won militarily. And now, after the 500th day we've reached, it really seems that there could be no other possible way but a cease of hostilities and a needing for a peace agreement. Essentially, young lives are being sacrificed. Old lives are getting heart attacks just from the sheer horror and scale of this war. Earlier today, I even mentioned...
While that fighting and tactics of war, of course, are playing out, and as you're mentioning there, it, of course, hurts the population. We understand that half the population, so 26.6 million, are food insecure as well. Is any kind of aid or food able to reach these people?
Well, recently, over in the last week, the Sudanese government, or what's left of it, essentially announced that they would open the borders in Adre in Darfur to allow the humanitarian aid convoys of WFP, the World Food Programme, and more humanitarian programs to enter into Darfur to be able to give the much-needed assistance and relief to civilians within the region, where it's been heavily impacted by famine. And that border had been closed from February up until a few days ago. And even the head of UN OCHA had announced that the borders have opened and they are moving trucks of food and fuel into the area. It is still not enough to essentially alleviate the suffering, not only on Darfur, but there has been reports of other famine regions as well, within Sennar, within the northern states as well, due to the lack of supplies that go into it. And that is a bureaucratic issue. Unfortunately, it has affected half of the population's number, unfortunately, and it's one of those things that really needs to come to an end. As well with the looming, not even looming, the famine has arrived. As you've reported earlier, we have seen dams essentially bust open due to the heavy rain that has never been seen before, actually, within certain parts of the state, especially in the northern states. So what we really need is a robust competent response, emergency response for disaster management and relief, with the famine, with the natural disasters, with the lack of coordination that we're seeing. It's only bound that this situation goes worse as the numbers continue.
Well, hopefully that emergency response can come. Elbashir, Idris, thank you so much for, highlighting the plight of the Sudanese war and for its people.